Irondequoit Zoning Board of Appeals to order. I would ask that everyone stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get underway, there's a few administrative matters that I need to share with you. First, the fire exit is located to your left. In the event of a fire, you will be notified by an announcement. If notified, please move in a calm and orderly fashion to the exit. Do not use the elevator. Use either the north or the south stairs to leave the building. Our meetings are recorded and broadcast, of course, by our secretary, Michelle. Donna is filling in for Michelle tonight for the purpose of a record, not a transcript. So to help her identify who's speaking, keep track of that in the notes. If you would please identify yourself each time that you come to the podium and speak into the microphone. We will take the items in the order that they appear on the agenda. There are extra copies of the agenda on the table next to the door. The way that we proceed is that when the case is called, the applicant or their representative will come to the podium, state their name and address, stop, raise their right hand, be sworn, and then present their case. During the presentation of the applicant's case, the members of the board may ask questions or engage in discussions with the applicant to clarify matters involved in the case. When that process is concluded, we will then open it up to public input. We've identified 3 categories of public input so far. We're open to other suggestions. The first is those who wish to speak in favor of the application, and we'll ask them, if there's more than one, to line up on the side and come up to the podium one after the other until we've heard all of those who wish to speak in favor of the application. Next category is those who are in opposition to the application, and we'll follow the same process. Line up, come up to the podium. The third category is those who aren't in favor or opposed, but they want to talk to us about some part of the application, like perhaps why the town has the rules it does about what constitutes the front yard on a corner lot. We have that discussion sometimes. None of the speakers who are speaking in favor or opposed or just talking about the application are sworn. That's only the applicant. Once the public input has been concluded, the applicant or their representative will have an opportunity to address any points that came up during the public input portion. And then when that is concluded, the case will be closed and we'll move on to the next case. After we've heard all of the cases, we take a short break. And when we come back from the break, we then deliberate on the cases in the order that they appear on the agenda and for which the applicant is still present. So if the first 2 applicants have left, but the third applicant is here, we would discuss the third case first, go down the agenda for those who are present, then go back to the first case and discuss it for those who have already left. During that portion of the meeting, there is no further public input unless the board specifically requests it. That's the time where we will discuss it, and occasionally we ask for some clarification of something or other, but unless it's requested, there's no further public comment. You're not required to stay if you leave, but you're curious as to what the decision was on any of the cases, you can either tune us in on TV and watch. We're up in the 1300s now.
1303.
1303, all right. Or you can call the zoning and building department tomorrow morning after 9, and they'll be glad to tell you what we decided. Sometimes that's better than staying through all the other cases and our deliberation and everything else. So, having concluded all the administrative matters, also I will note we are missing our member Russ Thomas this evening. I was told that he has some health issues, so we are sending our best wishes and prayers to Russ for recovery I'm told that he hopes to be back here in June. Hopefully that will be the case. So Russ, if you're watching, we're thinking of you.
I'm going to have Mr. Pinkerton do the announcing because I have a little bit of laryngitis.
It sounds like that might be a great idea.
Okay, the first case we have before the board today is case number ZB 1905-1 upon the matter of request by Brian Donald for area variances to replace an existing deck with less than required front and side setbacks on premises 1220 Bayshore Boulevard in an R2 residential district.
Good evening.
Good evening. Brian Donald, 1220 Bayshore Boulevard.
Do you swear or affirm that everything you say tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, board members. So, again, my name's Brian Donald. I live at 1220 Bayshore Boulevard, and I have a deck at our home that has reached its end of life. It's a non-conforming deck now. We're proposing to tear it down, for the most part, put it back in kind with existing. We would like to add 2 feet to the east, to basically cantilever over what supports we have there now, and we're also kind of making right and adding a small section to the south side of the deck that, for the life of my wife and I, we can't figure out why it was built that way. So anyway, the setbacks required in the area are 25-foot front setbacks. We are along the bay, so our rear yard, or yard facing the bay, if you will, is treated as our front yard. We need a 24.8-foot setback where 25-foot is required. We also need a 2-foot variance for our side setback. Our property lines are actually diagonal. They're not parallel to the side of our house. So by adding that 2 feet to the south, we're also encroaching a little bit on the side setback. So I've in my letter of intent went through the 5 considerations for an area variance. If you like, I can walk through those. If not, I can field any questions the board may have.
Does anyone have any questions?
Just one thing, and after consideration 5, you had that the state may own 15 feet more, and you may have to get another variance. Has that been cleared up, do you know?
It hasn't been cleared up. We're actually not sure. I mean, I would ask that, kind of my yard is my yard, so if it turns out that 15-foot, isn't owned, the variance would just be that much less. I'm not sure if there's a way to write the decision that way. But
So you've phrased your application as if the state owns that 15 feet?
I phrased it as if they do not.
If they do not.
Yep.
So if they do own it, then you would need 15 feet more of a variance.
Correct.
But the state isn't gonna come in and mow it for you or take care of it.
Last I checked, no.
Okay.
So is that's from the break wall? Is that
Yeah, more or less the way my survey maps show now is that the property line is along my break wall. So the 26-foot, approximately, 25-foot, just under 25-foot is from the back of the break wall. Did speak to my neighbors as well, and they provided some emails in support of the project. I think Donna passed those out, so just wanted to make sure everybody got those.
That was left for you tonight on your desks.
Oh, yes,
The paper
we
clip.
have an email from, Mark Wakeman, in support of, allowing the new deck to be built, and from Joe Tomaselli, who is the neighbor to the south, and Mr. Wakeman's the neighbor to the north. So both of your neighbors would like the idea of a new deck instead of one that's collapsing. Right?
As would we.
Yes. Any other questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, we'll open it to, I'm sorry, did you have? Seeing none, we'll open it to public input. And is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Anyone here who'd like to speak in opposition to this application? Anyone who'd like to talk to us about front yards being on the water side or the state owning land they're not, anything like that? Seeing none, we will close the hearing with respect to this case and move on to the next matter on the agenda.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda is case number ZB 1905-2. Upon the matter of request by Christopher Wall for an area variance to construct a new dock exceeding maximum square footage on premises 361 Bayfront Lane North in an R3 residential district.
Chris Wall, 361 Bayfront Lane North.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that everything you say tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay.
So in regards to the property, we're looking to add a dock to it, and it's right now 200 square foot's the maximum. It is a little bit shallow near the break wall that I've got permits in right now at the DEC to get the break wall built and a contract with Martin Tideside for the break wall. That's been approved by the DEC. At the same time, we're going to be doing a dock. The dock, I'm looking to build 40 foot long. The options to get to 200 square feet would be 40 foot long by 5 foot wide. The material comes in 12 foot length boards. It would be a waste of material and no less cost to build it at 6 foot wide as opposed to 5 foot wide, and it would be stronger. The reason for wanting the 40 foot in length is to get a little bit of distance from the break wall, and then also for the size of the boat that I would like to have in the future. So that was a request for why 40 foot by 6 foot. If we go down through the list real quick of,
I got a question first.
yeah, absolutely.
When I was down there, I noticed that house it doesn't appear to be occupied or occupiable.
It is under
Present
construction right now. I got an approval for adding a third story to that we did last fall. The drawings right now just got approved by the architect, so that will be, construction will be getting started on the renovation very shortly.
My concern is that if we grant the variance for the deck now,
The dock,
that the dock will get put in, and then it'll be used when the house is not usable because the house remains under construction. And that's contrary to what the regulations that the town has contemplate. They require that before a dock can be put in, that there has to be a structure on the property that it's an accessory to, and that by implication is, at least in my opinion, is one that is actually occupied, as opposed to a structure that sits there and could serve as a, well, for lack of a better term, party central while people boat and party on a dock that's been put in, but the house sits there, and I know that it's been quite some time since we approved the third story, and I'm
it was,
told that it's been about 2 years that you've been working on it. So my question to you is, why are you applying for the variance now as opposed to when you've got it or are reasonably close to having it done and ready to be occupied so that it makes sense to then talk? Right now, the water's coming up over your lawn.
yep, correct. So the break wall process has been in works for a little while, and certainly will help to have the break wall in place and secure the property to complete the construction. At the same time, with the same contractor coming in via barge to do the work, it would make sense to put the dock in at the same time as the break wall, which is currently scheduled for about 2 months from now.
What about all the other work on the house?
It's in schedule also. My architect stamped the drawings today and has gotten those over to, it's being sent to the town.
And at what point do you expect to have the house completely renovated and occupied?
It'll be late summer.
Late summer. So if we conditioned the approval of a variance upon occupancy of the house, that would work, right?
That would be close on the timing. Yep, that would work.
I mean, because a 2-month time frame for the break wall and the dock takes us into July, and late summer, in my mind, is August. So I'm expecting that what you're saying is that by August, the house is gonna be occupied, and then that would be a different story, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, so you're suggesting that he postpone the dock and the break wall until the house is ready for
Well,
livable. So in other words, if I'm understanding the chairman correctly, he doesn't want you to start, we could tentatively approve this.
Excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt, but could you please speak into the mic? Some folks on the broadcast are having a tough time hearing the members.
Okay.
Thank you.
If we were to approve it, but we won't approve any building to be starting, any dock building until the house is ready. So that if I don't know, when is the guy with the barge and all that gonna wants to start the project?
Is moving as quickly as possible. Certainly with the flooding conditions, that's messing up his schedule right now, but we're looking at about 2 months. The steel's been ordered. It's just as soon as he can get there with the barge, and certainly having the break wall in place and securing the property will make the construction process much easier, given the current flooding conditions.
Do you have a complete
kind of a
up-to-date
catch-22.
permit? Because this one says that it's not a permit that I've got here. I'm sorry. Notice of incomplete application for the permit.
Oh,
So,
that
this
was,
old one?
that was for the application.
Okay.
Michelle wrote that down, but he got everything in.
No, he's referring to the memo from the DEC, I believe.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm just wondering if you had a new one up to date that was approved?
From the DEC, no, it's still undergoing final approval by the DEC for the variance for 6 foot by 40.
All right, so
That's
you
for
don't,
the dock.
so you don't have the DEC's approval yet to have a 240 square foot dock?
No,
And we wouldn't issue it until we have
Right.
the building permit, the DEC permit, and the zoning permit. But he's gotta start getting these okayed.
But wouldn't it
See,
be,
my concern is that from what it looks like to me, you've been at a snail's pace in doing the work on the house that's already been approved. And that at that rate, it could be years before it's done. But putting a dock in then allows a situation that the town has clearly indicated is unacceptable. And that is having a dock into the lake or the bay without people living right there at the dock. Either they're renting or they're owning, but that it's occupied. And that doesn't look anywhere near being ready to be occupied to me now. I don't know what the status of all the contracts and everything else is, but I'd feel a lot more comfortable if we adjourned this to our July meeting and we had very clear indication from you as to when the barge is coming, when the third floor is gonna be put in, when all the interior work is gonna be done, and when people are actually gonna move into the house. Because at this point, my inclination is to say, get the rest of it done first and then come back and talk to us. But I'm willing to listen to you more in July if you're agreeable to that.
I'm agreeable to that.
Okay. Then, with your consent,
We'll adjourn it.
we'll adjourn it to July. I'll make a motion to that effect, that we adjourn with the applicant's permission, this application to our July meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 6 votes in favor, no opposed, no abstentions, and we'll move on to the next case on the agenda. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda is case number ZB 1905-3. Upon the matter of request by Presero Associates, acting as agent for Congregation Shema Yisrael, for the use variance to utilize the existing building for professional services and nonprofit uses, and for area variances for less than required parking, and to allow freestanding signage on premises 326 North Winton Road in an R1 residential district.
Good evening, board members. I'm David Cox with Pastoral Associates, here to represent the project.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that everything you say tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you.
So we're here tonight for the use variance to have a business use in the R1 district, and then 2 area variances for parking and signage. And kind of how the existing owner wants to say a couple words, and the future owner would like to say a couple words, and then I'll just hit some highlights of the use variance and the area variances. So I'm going to turn it over to Rabbi Jim.
Jim Appel, 87 Bradford Road, Rochester, New York. After this.
Oh, okay, I thought you had done that before.
Nope.
Do you swear or affirm that everything you say tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes, so we purchased the building. It's, by the way, somebody said 326. It's 1326 North Winton Road. We purchased this building in 1988. It was originally built in 1928 to be a dormitory and offices for Holy Angels Convent. And we had an architect come in and advised us that we could take out some of the interior walls, create enough space for a sanctuary. And so we did that and ended up with a sanctuary for about 120 people. And we have been very happy to be here in Arundecoy. It's been over 30 years now, 31 years. And as I drove up here, I thought of all of the times I've visited the hospital and the times I've had to go to the funeral homes in Arundecoy. So we've had a great relationship with the fire marshal and the building inspector, the police. I just want to say that we've really appreciated all that is available to us here. But we came to the conclusion around 2010 that we needed to try to sell the building because it was really too small for us. We needed a larger sanctuary. In addition, because it was originally a dormitory, the ceiling to the sanctuary is about this high, so it's not like you have a regular vaulted ceiling. And we have a fellowship hall on the second floor, but it only seats about 60 people with tables out there. So we started to attempt to sell it in 2010, and we found an interesting pattern that most of the people who came by were churches, and they looked at it, and what we found was that a church that was small enough to fit in it couldn't afford it, and that any church that could afford it was too big for it. They wouldn't fit in it. So we had lots of lookers, but no offers. And then in 2013, we began doing some renovations to try to make it more saleable. So we increased the seating to about 170, but still didn't have any offers. In 2015, we added a fire stair, which enabled us to use the second floor with more than 50 people under code, $25,000, but still no buyers. Between 2016 and 17, we made additional repairs at the suggestion of our realtor. We put in a new furnace, we repaired all the windows, which was like 60 windows. We upgraded the lighting, we painted, all to make it more saleable, but put it back on the market. But again, lots of lookers, some looking to make apartments or senior living in it, but no offers. And then finally, the Tones Group made an offer last November, and we accepted it. And in the midst of all this, we have found a building that meets our needs, and we have been doing a capital campaign, and we've raised most of the funds to be able to buy that building. But of course, the sale of the building that we own is necessary to have enough funds to complete the deal. Thank you.
And then I'd like to have Jason Tones come up with Tones Ventures.
Hi, I'm Jason Tones. My wife Nicole. We own Tones Ventures.
You'd raise your right hand. Do you
Yeah,
swear
sure.
or affirm that everything you say tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
So my background, I'm a real estate attorney, real estate broker. My wife is a worship leader at our church, and we are both involved in a bunch of Christian ministries that we help administrate, an orphanage in Africa, a youth program in the city of Rochester, training and equipping of worship leaders and media ministers, and various other not-for-profits that we sit on the board or I'm the secretary or treasurer. So I help administrate a lot of them. And so we're looking for a place that can house all of our activities, where we could have a real estate closing, a board meeting, a training and equipping of a small group, prayer meetings, things like that. And so this building fits our needs well. We won't be using all 4 of the floors at the same time. So I just like to point that out. That wasn't in the letter. And the argument there is that because we won't be using all 4 floors at the same time, it diminishes the need to have the full parking spaces as required by the code. So, when the first floor, which is the assembly area, is being used, the second and third and fourth floors will not be being used. That'll be at nights and weekends. Whereas if we have a real estate closing or a board meeting for a ministry, that would happen on the second floor or the third floor and the other floors would not be being used, and that would be during the daytime on a weekday. So, the fact that it is deficient in parking is okay, because we won't need that full parking. Very rarely will we need even half of what's required, let alone all of what is required under the code. So that's our vision for it. It's many uses, but it will be owned by a for-profit entity, and will rent out space to the subsidiary entities like Tones Real Estate and Tones Law Firm, so it can provide its services for a fee. But also, we also run a family foundation which provides grant money to many ministries, and that's where our activities will be also carried out. So it's a very unique use of the building, many different uses, but all under one building, and that's kind of what we've been looking for, and it's kind of hard to find something like that. So that's kind of the vision for that.
Thank you.
But I guess the question that I have is, a use variance runs with the land. So once we grant it, assuming that we grant it, anybody in the future is allowed to use it other than as prescribed in the zoning ordinance. So your use is akin to not-for-profit religious kind of use like the ordinance permits. But if we grant your use variance it would be to commercial use, because you're for-profit, right? And then when your ministry comes to an end in the future, then my concern is, well, then what do we have on our hands? Then we have a 7-Eleven in the lower level, and we have business offices that are used during the day, and we've approved, less than a third of the spaces that would be required, and now we got people parking on lawns, parking on Winton Avenue, and we've got all kinds of problems. I don't foresee them with the use that you're describing, but we have to look down the road.
Excuse me, Chairman, I would just like to interject that we are offering it for professional services for the use variance, not commercial, so that would restrict some of the uses that you mentioned there.
All right, well, that's what I was getting
Similar-
at. All right,
Similar to NAR 6
so it would be
zoning.
for professional use?
Professional office uses is what they are proposing, correct?
Okay, all right. All right,
Can it be limited to that? I mean, can it be?
That's what it would be limited to, yes.
Similar to the
application-
property next door, they also have professional offices at
Application is
1268.
saying small commercial uses. Reuse the property in multiple small commercial uses such as law firms, real estate offices, sound studio, and ministry support services, and non-for-profit church.
Those,
It's loosely described.
yeah, those uses would fall under and are allowed as professional office uses,
so if we grant a variance, we can limit it to professional use only?
correct?
Okay, all right. That's good to know.
But
Well,
I,
on page 3 of the application. Under the bold areas, the 1, 2, 3, Tones proposes to use the property for the following general uses, not all of which are permitted in the R1 residential district. 1, general office, business and professional services, including administrative, legal, financial, and real estate services, counseling, bookkeeping, and the like. Collaborative, open design, creative workspace environment, including studios for video, audio, social media production, art, and design work, and the like. And 3, church, place of worship, and religious, charitable, not-for-profit education, training, and meetings, and the like, for churches, ministries, and nonprofits. So we're requesting more than professional services. On the 3rd floor will be our general offices. I'm a lawyer. I mean, I'm not hanging a shingle out and bringing people in for, I'm not open for business. This is a closed boutique shop that's just for my family's interest, our foundation, and our ministries that we support. And the same is true with the real estate. This isn't going to be an open shop, hanging the shingle. Everyone can come and avail themselves to my services. This is closed universe, boutique, but it is for general office, business and professional services. And then the 2nd floor, we want, which is now the children's area, Sunday school area, we're going to convert into a video room, an audio recording room, so that the ministry leaders can come in and do a podcast, can do a video, record an email, a video, and email it out to their supporters. So small, workspace where there's an iMac and you can mix a video or something like that. So the 2nd floor would be studio space. The 3rd floor would be administrative office space where we would hold our board meetings for the ministries or for the companies, which would range between 5 to 15 people. And so we're not doing any retail, so we're not selling, Slurpees or anything like that.
As Donna mentioned, it would be most akin to R6 for those first 2 uses that he's shown there, and then the 3rd would actually be permitted in R1 because that would be a religious purpose. So those first 2 uses, the professional office uses, you would think of as R6, and the final would already be allowable as a religious purpose in R1.
So the studio uses would be professional, right?
Correct, professional offices.
You had another question.
Well, doctor's office, professional. And that's where our concern is someone down the road, you're not bringing in enough to sustain the property, and all of a sudden.
I apologize. Again, if you could use the mic, they're just still having difficulty.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
And all of a sudden, okay, I need to rent the top floor, I need to rent the 2nd floor, and have a dentist office put in, or have a nail salon put in, or something of that nature. Technically professional services, but not your company. You're subletting it to somebody else. That would be the concern, or it would turn more into, yes, professional services, but on a retail level, as opposed to your ministries. And
The other point is that people aren't going to be parking on the lawns and on the street because we're going to continue the existing arrangement with the neighbor to have a reciprocal arrangement where they can use 10 spaces during the day when we are not going to be using the full capacity of our parking lot. We'll use less than half of it during weekdays. And the daycare center then can use 10 spots on our lot, which is actually closer to their front door, and it's easier in the wintertime for the parents to come to drop and pick up the kids. And then on nights and weekends when we may need additional parking, they're closed. They're daycare and a real estate office, and they're closed during those hours. So again, we have a parking deficiency, but there is parking spaces available for this building.
No, but I didn't get my question answered.
Oh, sure.
My worry is, and I think it's the chairman, mentioned this, is there a way that we can restrict his uses to be specific to, the law firm and the ministry for the law firm, and as opposed to, what makes him say that, all right, I need more money, I have to rent out half of it to bring in some more money to cover expenses. And now, because we've given it that commercial use, allowance, now all of a sudden it branches out and it's the envelope's pushed to more than what you're
Yeah.
thinking of now.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I meant to answer your question. I thought the underlying concern was the parking.
Well, that will come
Because the
eventually.
reason, yeah, I mean, if we had enough parking, it wouldn't, I mean,
But my worry is that everything you sound like you've got your stuff together and it sounds pretty cool. But in the event it doesn't, generate enough income for you and to keep things going.
yeah, this is
Then you gotta
gonna
branch out.
primarily be our ministry base for the rest of our lives. Money's not, whether we, profitability isn't the major concern for us. It's a place to provide these services for these people. We're not driven by money. So the fact, we plan to hold this for a long time, and the risk that we won't make enough money or be profitable operating in this building that would cause us to bring in outside
That's my concern.
is not going to happen. Yeah.
How many people will be using the facility on a daily basis?
Right, if this is approved and we close in a few months, provided Attorney General approves of the sale for Shema, we'll have 6 people on the 3rd floor, 3 people on the 2nd floor, and nobody else. So,
9 people?
yeah, but we plan to hire some more, but a few more as we grow, as we kind of build.
Worst case scenario, how many people?
Maybe if we build some workstations up on the fourth floor, we might put 3 or 4 people up there. It has a capacity of 49. The 2nd floor is going to be wide open space, so there's not going to be many workplaces. It'll be more of people come in, they go into a booth, they leave. There won't be actual offices, so there may be 3 people that are permanently stationed on the 2nd floor. And they'll be, yeah.
So you give me a number of 11 people?
It's hard to say where we'll be, and there's just not enough. If we wanted to have 50 people, we wouldn't do that because there's just not enough space for that.
You understand that we have to do the same thing, is that we have to look at the future
Yeah.
and your uncertainty and figure out.
I'm certain that it'll never get to a point that we'll come close to what's capacity or required by the square footage of the code that would, with respect to the parking.
But you're talking about just the normal day-to-day stuff, but what about when you're operating as a church or if you have people come into the studio? Now we gotta look at the,
Yeah, there may be on a week, if we had someone coming into the studio, we may have half a dozen people, maybe in at once to do studio work, and that would probably be the upper end. Nights and weekends when we may have someone, a group come and use the first floor where the church operates now, or assembles. The capacity of that is 170. But we don't foresee having more than 100 people there. Very rarely would we even have that, maybe twice a year, and I don't even know what we would,
No one living on premise?
no one's going, someone lives there now, but not in the future.
question for staff. Do we have to issue 2 variances because they're talking about 2 different uses?
You would issue a use variance in this case, and then also they need an area variance for the parking and an area variance for their sign. And to your point earlier, if you did have concerns about not additional uses in the future, but additional tenants in the future, that is one area that you'd be able to restrict that is through the parking variance. If they were to try to increase the number of tenants and add additional tenants for additional income, then they would at that point need to come before you for an additional parking variance because their parking restrictions would increase based off that.
Okay. The other thing I would say is that anybody in your example of I had to rent out space because it wasn't profitable. It takes two to tango. This person's got to come in and say, there's enough parking here. I'm a doctor. Patients need to park and during the day, and you don't have enough during, it would have to fit those people too. So while that's a possibility, it's got to work for that party as well. And which is why they've had such problems trying to sell it, is because it just doesn't fit those types of uses. We are so unique that, that's why we can buy this because of our unique use. And so that's just one thing.
And I would just like to add, for the board's benefit, that you don't have to approve the use for all of the uses that are contemplated under, say, the R6 zone. You can limit your approval to the specific uses that the applicant is proposing. And so, for instance, if someone wanted to come in and open a medical clinic, which might otherwise fall under the definition of a professional office, that would not fall under this approval because you've limited it exactly to what the applicant is proposing. So you can't limit who can use it. The use variances run with the land. You can't say that he can't rent it out in the future, but you can say that it can only be used for the specific purpose that's contemplated in this application.
So we
Yeah.
could limit it to the studio or
Yes.
a video, audio production place?
Yes.
design work? Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, but being devil's advocate, wouldn't that unnecessarily restrict them for any future use of his property?
It might, yeah. It's something.
Well, unless he came back to the board for addition.
Because he's such a boutique.
Right.
So either way,
Yeah.
limit the use and then have him come back for anything
Right.
outside of that boutique use.
Would you be acceptable to that if
for example, if I'm understanding you correctly, if number one on this, general office, business and professional services, including administrative, legal, financial, real estate services, counseling, bookkeeping, we approve, except no medical. Or restrict on top of that, I'd be fine with that. But just to pick one of these and say,
Oh, no.
we approve two and not one and three, then our deal would be dead. So.
No, I think we were thinking of restricting it to the things that you have listed in the application.
Yeah, and that would be great. If you
Alright.
said approved for these uses and no others, and if you wanted to be more specific, like medical office, because we're not going to be using it for a medical office, and that would restrict our ability to sell it to potentially someone, but that's okay.
Or you just have to come back to the
Or you
board.
We just come back and get it, the variance then for that. So.
Any other questions, comments from the board? Seeing none, we'll open it up to public input. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak in favor of this application? Anyone here who'd like to speak in opposition to this application? Anyone who'd like to talk to us about parking or anything like that? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing with respect to this matter and move on to the next case on our agenda.
Thank you.
Before we close it, did you want something to say? I thought you were gonna.
No, I just didn't know if you wanted to talk about the sign or the parking area variances
Oh,
at all.
I thought we did talk about the parking, the sign. You want to replace what's there with a little bigger sign, right?
No, same size.
Same size,
Just
okay.
different.
So that would make sense that you wouldn't leave the congregation sign up,
Right.
sort of.
Yeah,
comes
same
with the
same
territory.
dimensions, same footprint.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
For the record, can you tell me what the size is?
4 feet tall, 5 feet 5 inches wide, or long, and then 8 inches wide on the posts.
And it's not going to be neon with light.
No, it would.
filters or
Yeah,
anything.
same wood. There's a picture, I think, in the packet.
In the packet, yes. It's going to be similar to what's there now.
Yeah.
Yeah, just different content.
I have one more question. I'm sorry, and I'm reading the proposed changes in use. The real estate, the law firm, the Tone Studios, and then at the number 4 is the Bean and Blossom company, Joe Bean Coffee. Are you producing coffee there? Are you selling coffee there?
No, it's just a holding company. It's a company that holds the ownership interest in Joe Bean, which operates out on Blossom Road.
Okay, but is, the actual Bean and Blossom company will not be ran out of that store?
It's just it's the only thing it owns is an interest. It's just a special purpose entity to hold the ownership interest in Joe Bean, which is an operating company, and they do all their roasting and wholesaling at their location on Blossom Road in the Blossom Business District Center.
Okay, so.
Yeah,
that
there will be no manufacturing, no selling, none of that.
I mean, obviously, I could see where there could be some paperwork or office
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
done
right,
there.
yeah. Yeah, it's just
But-
administrative work,
Okay,
financial, legal work for them, yeah,
Alright.
or for that entity, yeah.
okay.
I think they were written up in the paper today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Thank you.
thank you.
The next case is case number ZB 1905-4, upon the matter of request by Samantha Marrero for an area variance to replace the existing fence with a 6-foot-high vinyl solid fencing exceeding maximum permitted height on premises 395 Longacre Road in an R1 residential district.
Hi, Samantha Marrero, 395 Long Acre Road. So right now,
I'm sorry, standing next to you is?
this is my fiance, Rondalyn.
The other owner of the house,
Okay. So,
Rondalyn Bell.
all right, so if both of you would raise your right hands, do you swear or affirm that everything you say tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, there we go.
So about 2.5 years ago, we purchased our home on Long Acre. We knew right away we would be replacing the fence at some point. Right now, we have a 4-foot wooden plank fence. We are asking to replace the fence exactly where it is, except with a 6-foot vinyl. Technically, it would be 5-foot solid, because the top foot would be a design, decorative, as we included a picture in there of it. So really, the variance is for around the deck, which is exactly where we would like privacy. I know per the town, they actually consider the side of our house our front. But if you look at the blueprint of our home, it's our backyard. You know, we have a play set back there for our children. We have 2 dogs. Our deck actually faces the side of our neighbor's house because we're a corner lot. So we're facing her chimney, we're facing her AC unit. So obviously, being our deck and wanting to be outside with our children, we would like some privacy there. Also, around the deck, our deck is actually raised 2 feet. So our current 4-foot fence comes literally about to our knees or like thigh. So even with the 6-foot fence there, sitting down, you're still gonna see the tops of our heads. But at least we have, you know, some privacy back there. And we also were able to go around to our surrounding neighbors and receive signatures in support of this. We showed them a picture, we showed them exactly what we wanted to do, and they were all in support of it. Essentially, obviously for privacy and to keep our dogs in there, but we, you know, plan to stay in this home for a very, very long time. Our children are very young, they're 6 and 8. So we're looking to add value and equity into the property and just make it look nicer for the neighborhood as well. That's why we included a picture for our neighbors and for the board members as well.
So the only portion that you need the variance for is around the deck and patio area, because that's the side instead of the back, which is really
Yes.
the back. Right?
Yeah.
We're more just really wanting to also help keep our dogs in our yard. Because if you're thinking about it, there's only 2 feet then from where our deck is to the top of the fence, and we have 2 decent sized animals.
That
So.
like to jump over.
Yeah.
Yeah, occasionally.
Okay.
There's some signatures in here from, 409 Long Acre, 164 Long Meadow.
Yep. So we are the corner lot. So our, I can't remember which neighbor was which. To be honest, I can't remember which neighbor was which, at which address. But we went to the neighbor, for certain, we have the neighbor, that we, our deck is next to her home, is the side of her house. We have that neighbor's signature, as well as, if you consider that our front yard, the neighbor across the street, he agreed to it as well. The neighbor where our front door is across the way,
And the neighbor
as well.
And the neighbor that would be looking at basically our front, or the side slash front of our
Yeah.
house. We got their permission as well across the,
Yep. You
road
got
there
five,
as well.
five neighbors that have said,
and,
good, look
and the
like-
one that we couldn't get the signature on was just because the 2 times we tried, they weren't even home, so.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And it is an investment we're willing to make. It's gonna be pretty expensive.
That would appear to be the case, yes.
It'll look nice.
Yes.
All right. Any other questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, is there anybody who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? Anybody who'd like to talk to us about corner lots, fences, deck heights, things like that? You would? All right.
We learned a lot.
Seeing none, we'll close the hearing with respect to this matter and move on to the next case on our agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda is case number ZB 1905-5, upon the matter of request by David Eckert and Seta Hampar for an area variance to construct a garage addition with less than required side setback on premises 69 Dogwood Lane in an R1 residential district.
Seta Hampar from 69 Dogwood Lane.
David Eckert from 69 Dogwood Lane.
You'd both raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm that everything you say today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you.
We have a small shed on the property now that the floor is given way, and we're not able to put all of the stuff that normally would go into a shed, snow blower, lawnmower, and all that nonsense in there anymore. So we're hoping to expand our garage to replace the shed and also make a space for an additional car. Right now, our garage does not hold 2 cars. It's 1.5 car garage. Unfortunately, on that side of the property, we're quite close to our closest neighbor, only 18 and a half or so feet away. So we need a variance in order to expand the garage to do a reasonable job and on that side of the property. I apologize, I had intended to include photos of the property with this letter, and I realized today that I didn't do that, but hopefully we have enough information here. Be happy to send whatever else we would need. We have a letter from our closest neighbor whose property line we would be closest to and in support of the variance. And we hope to keep the construction the same as the existing home, wood shingle, and so that it won't look dramatically different than it does right now, except that it'll be bigger. So that is our hope, and that's the reason we're here today.
Gentlemen, we have a letter from the next door neighbor with no objections to the setback.
Oh, that's right. Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, we'll Open it up to public input. Is there anyone who'd like to speak in favor of this application? Step right up.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm Mike Asinato. I live at 70 Dogwood Lane, directly across the street from Dave and Seta at 69 Dogwood Lane.
We could hear you well, but still talking to the
okay.
mic so they can
Okay.
hear you on TV.
Thank you. I have no objection to their endeavor, and I fully support them. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in favor of the application? Anyone like to speak in opposition to the application? Anyone like to talk to us about rotting sheds or needing more space for snow blowers? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing with respect to this matter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next case before the board is case number ZB 1905-6, upon the matter of request by Grace Rinaldi for area variances to demolish existing attached garage and construct a new attached garage in the same footprint with less than required front and side setbacks on premises 860 Rock Beach Road in an R1 residential district.
Hello?
This is my wife Grace. I'm Fred Rinaldi. We reside at 360 Rock Beach. I'm going to be doing the presentation on her behalf. I have a few pretties.
360 or 860?
366, I'm sorry.
We presently live at
I
366.
rent there too.
Okay. All right. So if you'd both raise your right hands, do you swear or affirm that everything you say tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you.
As I mentioned, we live at 366 Rock Beach. We've been in the neighborhood for over 30 years. We are currently under contract for 860 Rock Beach Road. Our intention, we're here tonight requesting a side and front setback. There's a pre-existing and new and non-conforming south and east setback for just the garage. It's our intention to demolish the building. The building architect was Cloyd Bragdon, who's a famous architect. But the house is in ill repair. It's been cut in half. Part of it has been moved away. There are additions and modifications that make it less than desirable. There's a mildew and problem within the building. So although the structure doesn't meet our requirements, it was built as a summer cottage. Claude Bragdon was a famous architect, and in my career, I have saved old buildings for 45 years, believe it or not. So with it being said, even though the structure itself has been kind of modified in a less than glamorous way, Claude's concept of placing the structure on the site I thought was magnificent. If you look at the site, the actual footprint, you can see it's kind of a butterfly concept, and a lot of things have been added onto it and changed to it. So what we're looking to do is to
You need
respect.
to use the microphone, because
What we're looking to do is respect the architect's concept of placing this structure in this design, thank you, in this design, and build upon it. So the idea is that we would demolish the structure and as best we can keep on the foundation and use the basement as there, and just do it in a more modern and efficient construction.
when you say demolish the structure, I understand your application to relate to the garage.
Relates to the garage. I'm giving you an idea what the concept, the overall concept.
Okay, but you're not demolishing the whole
I'm
structure?
demolishing the whole structure.
The whole structure?
The whole structure.
Okay.
It's inefficient. There's a mold issue. It was built as a cottage. It was rambling. Like I said, it's been cut in a quarter, moved next door. There's a lot of different types of modifications that weren't in keeping with the architecture. It's really, and it was built as a cottage. So we want to make it our prime residence. We would like to take that foundation and respect Bragdon's concept of placement on the site and build it up in a more contemporary and modern structure. And those materials would be wood, and that includes the garage. We take the garage down and rebuild it. So basically the concept is, good architecture takes a story, and I could just take the whole thing down and just rebuild new. But the idea that I didn't know Claude, but the idea that this is his structure that he built, I would like to respect that and build the structure on the same shape that he had created in 1905 when this was built. So with that being said, the new structure, we would try to keep the same square footage, try not to exceed the heights, but we definitely wouldn't exceed any building codes that are prevalent.
So the only thing you need from us is relates to the garage though, right?
That's correct.
Okay, all right. That's what I wanted to be clear.
Okay.
Yeah,
I wanted to give you the whole story.
all right.
My wife doesn't listen to me, only the opportunity I get to talk.
Did I understand you to say that this is the house where it was divided in half at one point?
We didn't say that, that's true.
That's true.
All right, I had heard that, yes, okay.
That wing on the left-hand side was cut off and moved over, right?
There's two wings that there was a guest suite and the gardener's suite. So the Norrises have, to the west, have one of the properties. And then the Romers, I believe, further to the west, have the gardeners. So, yeah, it's got quite a history.
We don't intend to be splitting the new house. In going through the factors, the 5 character factors, I'll do it very quickly. The first will be, is there a change in character in the neighborhood? And if you drive Rock Beach, about every other house has some structure. A guest house, a greenhouse, a garage that's within that 10-foot requirement that we're deficient on our property. Just for example, 854, 864, 888, 896, 700, 708, 308, 360, and 346, to name some of them. So in keeping in character with the neighborhood, the idea was you kept your front lawn on the water, broader, they moved the structures south. So it's just a characteristic of the neighborhood, so there's not a big change there. Just to say, I don't have a letter from Mr. Norris, but we talked to Mr. Norris, and I'm of record here now, so I generally tell the truth. Mr. Norris was happy with the concept, that we weren't doing a McMansion and that we were creating basically a ranch in the same configuration, not protruding and causing any detrimental effects on the other properties. The Morrises, I believe, are here tonight. They are here, I believe, in support, I hope, that's what he told me. So, and I don't have anything in writing from him, but with- that would be a good joke. So it's consistent with the neighborhood. We're keeping with the same square footage. Right now, I don't have a final design. I hired an architect from out of town who's helping us put something together because it's kind of a complex, wanting to use the footprint, wanting to make it a little more contemporary is a complex task. So we've hired somebody who is up to the job. But I can tell you that's going to be the materials. We won't exceed any other code requirements for the town. Next is alternate solutions. I could easily take it all down and build a new house. I don't want to do that. I like having the story behind it. I like respecting Claude Bragdon. It's, a lot of times good architects are inspiration for other architects. So I consider us being inspired by Claude's layout and concept and the different facets of the corners of this that we can use to give you good views. So basically, we got a story behind what we're doing as opposed to just creating something new and that I pulled out of a catalog. To move the garage and try to save that, as you can see there, I lose them on this. If you see the black line, that demonstrates where the sewer is. That sewer is a fairly new sewer, PVC. So I would have to move the sewer to do that. I would have to put in new foundations because I'm going to use the foundations, so it would cost me there. But more importantly, if I move that garage, do my concept that I'm talking about, and move that garage, I'm going to disrupt the architecture that I'm trying to expose, and I'm ruining the layout. Is the variance substantial? I can't believe that the variance is substantial because the neighbors, that building was there before most of the neighbors were there. It's 1905, so it's been something that's been existing, and it's consistent with the neighborhood. As I mentioned before, there's a lot of structures.
Well, it constitutes a pre-existing non-conforming use because it was there before the zoning ordinance was passed.
Correct.
So the only reason that you need a variance is because you're knocking it down.
That's correct.
Right. So what you're doing is you're modernizing what's already there on the same footprint. So, I mean, I don't think we see that as a big change.
Thank you. Let's see where we're here. Adverse effect or physical, adverse effect on physical or environmental conditions. We're not digging a new basement. There's no wetlands. There's nothing really that we're causing there as far as from an environmental or a physical standpoint. In fact, what we're building, it's not going to be LEEDs, but it's going to be LEEDs concept. So the efficiency of what we're doing conservation-wise is much improved from what is there right now. So I think we're moving in the right direction with that. Is this condition self-created? That's a tough one. The condition was there. It doesn't have to be, like I said, I could take the building down and do something and easily do the 15-foot setback. But in light of having the story behind the architecture so it's special, I'm going to say I don't believe it's self-created. It was there, and all we're doing is trying to preserve a little history.
Well, you're taking it down because of the condition that it's in, not because you decide, hey, I just want to put something new here.
Correct.
Right?
If the condition was different and certain elements were there, I've done a lot of renovation. Ironically, our house now is John Shant's house, and we've renovated that and kept that in character. And it's just a craftsman. That wasn't Claude Bragdon house.
Well, as I recall, he created part of the problems you're referring to, right?
Age did. It affects us all. It's just the age. It hasn't been maintained the way it should have been maintained, and it really wasn't built to be a permanent residence. It was built to have a large family, and all the kids have a bedroom, and it's very cut up. So the original tent I can respect.
Okay.
With that being said, again, we're not looking to jam a lot on the site. We're just looking to retain a little history, and still with that, keeping in the spirit of the neighborhood and being inspired by Claude. That's all I have to say. If I can answer any questions, I'd be glad to.
Just, not that it's relevant to the variance, but are you gonna be able to save that big tree?
No. And I am considered the tree-loving developer in the Rochester area. I don't kill trees. In fact, the only thing that's upsetting about going to this site, on my site, I have 24 trees that are 50 foot, 60 foot. You know, this doesn't have that. It's got one pine tree that's that tall. But that tree is growing into the foundation.
That's what,
Okay.
Yeah, so I can't,
that's what I was
that
thinking
can't
about. That's too bad.
be, it is.
All right. Any other questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, we'll open it up to public input. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor of this application? You were given advance billing.
I'm Wally Morse. I actually live at 12 Sutherland Street, but we also own the property at 878 Rock Beach Road. I own it along with my brother and the rest of our family. So the only difference between what was said is we're older than you. It was before 1900 that those original houses were built next door to. So we're totally in favor of this. We think it's great, and we have no objection. We are literally the neighbor on this side of the garage. So it's simple and to the point, so we think it's just fine.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? Anyone who'd like to talk to us about trees, garages, foundations, anything that relates to it without an opinion on the application itself? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing with respect to this matter and move on to the last item on our agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The final case on the agenda is case number ZB 1905-7. Upon the matter of request by Costitch Engineering, acting as agent for Guggenheim Development Services LLC, for area variances to construct a 3,134 square foot Jiffy Lube building with associated site improvements with less than required front setback on a reconfigured lot that shall include premises 1268 East Ridge Road and a portion of tax ID 091.08-2-51.1 in a C business district.
Good evening. My name is Garth Winterkorn. I work with Costage Engineering. I'm the agent for the applicant, Guggenheim Development Services, LLC.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that everything you say tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. I'm probably going to get in trouble with our attorney for asking this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. There was a Jiffy Lube at the corner of Ridge and Hudson that went out of business and sat vacant for a while before Valvoline moved from Portland and Ridge, opening the way for the Dunkin' Donuts that a lot of people are enamored of. And now you want to put a Jiffy Lube on a site. I mean, what makes you think that the Jiffy Lube on this site is going to do any better than the Jiffy Lube at Hudson and Ridge? Because I'm concerned that we're gonna, if we approve it, and you're probably entitled to, under the law, to the variances that you're asking for. So as soon as we approve it, you build it all, and then, you know, a year or two later, we've got a vacant Jiffy Lube building there, which really isn't adaptable to much else.
If I can, the issue in question here, though, is the variance, the area variance, and please chime in if I'm incorrect here, but.
No, I said I was gonna get in trouble with our attorney for asking that question. I'm curious about it anyway.
The town does not have the oversight to tell them whether or not whether or not the market will demand that. That's their own risk to take and.
Oh, no, I understand that. It was just a question that I had that.
We do have to go as an additional board approval, and the application has already been made to the town board.
Right.
Because this use requires a special use permit, so.
Yeah.
I would probably think there's a lot of other variables that went into market research and.
I was just curious.
So Guggenheim is a developer. They're out of Frisco, Texas, which is just north of Dallas. They're gonna purchase the property from Mr. Tamby, and then a portion of the Aspen Dental property. So they do their own due diligence. What they do is they lease it out to a franchisee who is basically Gulf Oil company. So there's both of them do their own independent due diligence. So a lot of that work has been done, and they're confident in the market, obviously, because they're looking to make the investment in this piece. So.
And even though the other company had the same name, it could be a total different.
It's a totally different
operator.
It's a different
Operator,
operator,
yeah.
correct. Yeah.
And just, like I said, I knew it was an improper question. I knew he was gonna.
I was
somebody
kind of
would jump on me,
expecting it
but
might
was
come, so.
It's one of those that a lot of people out there may have, and
Understood.
you know.
If I could just briefly,
Would you use the microphone, only because they asked, no,
He's got a
I have a
handheld.
habit to,
no, there's a portable one.
There's a handheld there.
Right to your
And-
left, to your left.
thank you. A quick explanation of how we set the building and why we need the variance. So a 60-foot front is required. The southeast corner, this being the front, is at 45.4. The southwest corner is 59 something. It's basically the code. But there'll be a cross-access easements with the neighbor here to utilize the existing driveway off of Portland, as well as the existing driveway off of East Ridge. And especially the one on Portland goes through the back of Aspen Dental. You can see it right here where cars can access the entrance to Jiffy Lube, which is the back of the building. We're required to put one handicap spot here. So the alignment is really nice with the existing driveway. The handicap parking will not hinder free movement. And then there's 4 service bays here. So it allows for one car to be stacked behind each bay, still have free unhindered access from Portland Avenue driveway.
And the part that sticks up to the north, that's additional parking?
That's parking. For the most part, it's employee parking. It's there to meet code. Jiffy Lube likes to have the parking in the back because they like the visibility of not having parking in their front yard. And there's also, as you get to the north of the parcel, the topography gets a little steeper the further you go north. So the parking, even though it's per code, we're allowed to narrow it down because it's the nature of the lot. You can see the dark line. The lot narrows in the back, and it helps us keep the parking off the steeper slopes.
So the driveway, straight out in front on the Ridge Road, that is gonna be shared also with Aspen Dental, right?
As it is now, correct?
Right.
Yep.
Does Aspen Dental have another, entrance there further to the,
They have one off of Portland.
okay, so,
Yep.
all right. Okay,
Which
there's nothing right out in front of their building.
Correct.
All right,
It looks like there's one that's shown on your,
right.
I don't know why this right-of-way taking was done, but
That was my question. That's not a right-of-way, right?
there's no access there. The county,
They closed it.
when this application came in, they made them move the driveways on Portland, for instance, as close as they could to their north line.
right,
And on East Ridge Road, as far away again to the east from this intersection.
It appears
Because
that
of the
that,
queuing for the left turn lanes on the East Ridge and Portland.
that current depiction right there, it appears that that doesn't have, the business that is now on location there. So some of that access may be
Right, it's closed off.
correct.
Okay, that was my question.
Well, that's right, does look like Brugger's from the top.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, okay.
Brugger's.
So basically, the variance we're looking for is just the setback on the one side of the building.
Correct. One quick point.
And that's created because Ridge Road is at an angle to the
Yeah, it's
property
at an
line.
angle, it's not parallel, or the lot lines aren't perpendicular,
Right.
it's not parallel to the buildings. The existing home, I should point out, the porch is closer to East Ridge Road than what we're proposing. And the adjacent parcel to the east, this building is also closer to East Ridge Road than what we're proposing.
Okay.
So in that sense, we're not blocking visibility, we're respecting visibility for the Rubino parcel. And I think helps keep the whole thing in like a corridor, it's in nature with the other businesses.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, we'll open it up to public input. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak in favor of this application? Anyone who'd like to speak in opposition to the application? Anybody who'd like to talk to us about access or anything related? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing with respect to this matter, and we will be in recess until 8:30. application for 1220 Bayshore Boulevard? He is, okay. 361 Bayfront Lane North has been adjourned to July. 1326 North Winton is present. 395 Longacre is here. 69 Dogwood Lane, they've left. 860 Rock Beach Road, they left. And 1268 East Ridge Road, I think he's still out in the hall, but I think he's staying. So we will take the matter of 1220 Bayshore Boulevard first. I'm sorry, I have to get my, where am I? There it is. This is a type 2 action for seeker purposes. Does anyone wish to make a motion with respect to this application?
I'll make a motion on 1220 Bayshore Boulevard that we approve the application in reference to it, the front or the front and side setbacks, both of them. I don't believe the variance is substantial. I don't believe it'll affect the character of the neighborhood. I do believe it is not self-created because the deck has deteriorated, and they didn't do that. And I do not believe it'll hurt the environmental effects of the area. That being said, I think it should be approved as applied for.
I'll second.
Was that Tim? Who seconded?
I did.
You did, okay.
Oh, Tim could, either one of us.
If need be, I will. If need be, I will.
No. All right, any discussion?
Do we have to do anything just in case the property line with the state changes? Do we have to add, make it a larger variance in case he has to do that, or?
Well, I think if we grant the variance as it's asked for, which is to extend the deck 2 feet closer to the bay, if that's 15 feet less, because it turns out the state owns it, that didn't figure into our
Okay.
Yeah,
calculations.
right, you said the dimension of the deck, well, yeah.
Yeah. All right, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries, 6 votes in favor, no opposed, no abstentions. 2 members of the board remain absent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But. All right, so we have 1 absent. All right. Total of 7. All right. Math was never my strong suit. Right. I count them both. All right. Next item before us then would be 1326 North Winton Road. Does anyone, this is a type 2 action for seeker purposes. Does anyone wish to make an motion with respect to the use variance application? I'll make a motion that we approve the application for a use variance with the conditions that the use is limited to professional uses as specified in the application.
Can we add a little something extra?
Sure.
In the packet, I noticed there was a parking agreement, reciprocal parking agreement.
That could
That
be
relates-
addressed in the parking variance.
That's the area variance.
Okay, all right,
It's the use variance.
I'll stop now.
With respect to the findings, the testimony and the written submissions certainly appear to indicate that a reasonable return on the investment cannot be realized under the present uses that are allowed by the ordinance, given that for 9 years, well, 8 years, the property was marketed without success because for those who could afford it, it was too small, and those who could use it, it was too expensive. The unique circumstances are the character of the property itself, its location, the fact that it was originally part of a larger complex that was used for religious purposes and since has been abandoned for that and had to be converted to other uses that don't impact undesirably upon the largely residential character of the neighborhood. It's not going to, it will create some change in the character of the neighborhood, but not anything significant. And the need for the variance is not self-created. It's created by the logistics of the site and the uses that are permitted that aren't available.
May I add that we are approving this use variance based on the uses that he has in his application, and that if there were any additions or changes to these uses, that he need to come back in front of us to get any changes or any additions.
So what I put as conditions is that the use is limited to professional uses as specified in the application. Other uses will require further application.
Thank you.
I assume you seconded it?
I will.
You have. All right, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. 6 votes in favor, no opposed, no abstentions, and we have 1 absent for statistical purposes. Then we have the application with respect to 1326 North Winton Road for an area variance for the parking. This is also a type 2 action for seeker purposes. Does anyone wish to make a motion with respect to this application?
I will. I'll make a motion that we approve it, the use variance for the parking to maintain 32 spaces as opposed to 99 required. I don't think it's a undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood. It's, they're not changing anything. They're maintaining the same parking that's there now. I don't believe there's alternates that would affect the use that they propose for this site. It does not appear to be a substantial area variance. Again, they're not changing the use, they're changing their need for parking. I don't believe it'll have an adverse impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood. They're not increasing the amount of impervious spaces, or the traffic in and out should remain the same. And I don't believe it's self-created hardship because of the nature of the property. It's difficult to sell it, and this appears to be a good use for it.
I'll second.
I would like to add to that. In our packets or today's edition, there was a reciprocal parking license agreement that has been, looks like it's put all together, but it has not been signed by either parties. And I believe that should be, in order for us to do the approval, that should be subject to this agreement being signed by both parties.
All right. Is that an
I have no
accept?
problem with that.
I second.
Okay, all right. So as a condition will be a reciprocal parking agreement to be executed. with that condition. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries, 6 votes in favor, no opposed, no abstentions, statistically 1 absent. Next item will be,
Do we need to mention the sign, or do we already mention?
No, that's gotta, we gotta do that as a separate.
oh yeah, we didn't have, well, that was part of that variance. There was one variance for the two.
Oh, I thought it
The
was
sign would be a separate area
It's a
variance.
separate.
A separate one, okay, I only had 2 sheets and the sign and the parking were on the one together.
Oh, I apologize for that. That must have been an error on our
problem.
fault, but.
The sign is a type 2 action for seeker purposes as well. Does anyone wish to make a motion about the sign?
I'll move to approve the variance as proposed. It's not gonna change the characteristics of the neighborhood as the sign is virtually identical, aside from content to the sign that exists already. I don't see any alternatives. Again, it's not substantial, given the similarities in the signs. Can't imagine any environmental effects from changing what's written on the sign, and the situation's not self-created as the sign's already in existence there.
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries, 6 votes in favor, no opposed, no abstentions. 1 member of the board is absent statistically.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on our agenda for which an applicant remains present is 395 Long Acre Road. This is a type 2 action for seeker purposes as well. Does anyone wish to make a motion with respect to this application?
I'll make a motion, we approve the application as submitted. Possible change to the neighborhood character, I don't believe it's gonna impact it. It's gonna look a little better than the existing fence that is there. It's not a substantial request, and I don't think it'll do anything with the physical environment conditions granted. Is the situation self-created? It's a corner lot, it's tough, front yard, backyards are always confusing, so with that, I think we're in good shape.
I'll second it.
Who said
Me.
You did, okay.
There's an echo in here, isn't there?
Yeah, it's that, those mics that throw us off. All right, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, 6 votes in favor, no opposed, no abstentions, 1 statistical absence. Next application for which the applicant remains present pertains to 1268 East Ridge Road. This is a type 2 action for seeker purposes as well. Does anyone, I'll tell you what, since I gave him a hard time, I'll make the motion. I would move that we approve the application as granted, or as made, grant the application as submitted based on the following findings of fact. There will not be any adverse change to the environmental, or the neighborhood character. Do we have to do a seeker on this one?
No, this one is
I didn't think so.
type 2.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, okay. The alternatives that wouldn't require a variance would require that the building be angled, unlike every other building on Ridge Road, because the road is angled, and that would put it in a weird position with respect to the lot lines. And it's not a substantial request. At the closest point, or the furthest point to the road, it's within inches of meeting the requirement, and the only reason that it diminishes after that is because of the angle of Ridge Road to the property line. So it's not a substantial request. It's not going to have any physical or environmental impact if it's granted and it's not a self-created situation. It was created when the lot lines were laid out and the road was laid out years and years and years ago. Does anyone wish to second the motion?
Second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. 6 votes in favor, no opposed, no abstentions, and 1 statistical absence.
Enjoy the pizza.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, then moving back up to for the applicants who are not present, we have 69 Dogwood Lane. This is also a type 2 action for 69 Dogwood Lane. This is a type 2 action for seeker purposes. Does anyone wish to make an motion with respect to this application?
I'll make a motion, 69 Dogwood Lane, that we approve the application. I believe the variance is not substantial. I believe it will not affect the environment. It will have no environmental effect. It will not also change the character in the neighborhood. And I believe it is a self-created issue because the garage that they own now is not big enough for well, it's not even a large garage, and they just want to make a little larger garage.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. 6 votes in favor, no opposed, no abstentions, 1 statistical absence. The next item on the agenda for which the applicant is no longer present pertains to the application relating to 860 Rock Beach Road. This is a type 2 action for seeker purposes. Does anyone wish to make a motion with respect to this application?
I'll make a motion to approve as presented. It won't affect the character of the neighborhood, at least not in a negative way. I mean, the footprint of the garage is already there. It's not going to change in any way. I don't see alternatives as he described that the building itself is in disrepair and has some other issues. It's not substantial. Again, it's taking up the same footprint as the previous garage. I don't see any environmental problems. He described that it's going to be a more modern, nice-looking garage, so it should improve any view that you have there. And the problem is not self-created again. You know, the garage built in the early 1900s is occupying the exact same space as the garage that will be there.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. 6 votes in favor, no opposed, no abstentions, 1 statistical absence. And the last item that we have on our agenda for this evening, everyone should have received copies of the draft of the minutes from our April 1st meeting. Did everyone receive those and have a chance to review them? I think there's 5 of us present who were at that meeting. I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of the April 1st meeting as submitted.
I'll second.
Mr. LaPerry seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Mr. Scott abstains.
One abstention.
Yep. So the motion carries 5 votes in favor, no opposed, 1 abstention, and statistically 1 member is absent. And that concludes our agenda for this evening, so we are adjourned.
We hope you enjoyed this presentation of the Irondequoit Zoning Board on ICAT Government Access. hope you enjoyed this presentation of the Arundecoit Zoning Board on ICAT Government Access.